It's very, the GLSEN school reform model is based on what we call the 3 Ps: policies, programs, and practices. Policies being the things set in place by state legislators, or in the case of independent or parochial schools, local boards. Programs being what the districts themselves do, what kinds of curriculum, what types of extracurricular, and practices being simply how individuals actually treat each other. Here in New York, we are one of the 40 states that do not extend the same protections to students who are bullied based on sexual orientation and gender identity that we do to students who are bullied based on, say, race or religion. So we have a policy gap. We have a program gap. It has only been within the last year that the New York City public school system has begun any comprehensive training on issues of sexual orientation and gender identity for school staff. And consequently, we have practices where bullying and harassment of this nature is pervasive in our schools. If you don't put in place policies and programs, you get bad practices. And we have failed in New York. And the ultimate symbol of that failure to me is the Harvey Milk School, and the people at the Harvey Milk School concur with me on this. If our system was functioning correctly, we would not need a school for gay kids because they've been driven out of the school system. That isn't what any of us in the LGBT community want. We are not interested. We don't believe that gay students learn better in a separate environment. Our problem is these students don't graduate at all. And I will point out that the Harvey Milk School has a graduation rate of 99%. So clearly it's successful with a group of students who have already been driven out of mainstream schools. But there's a huge breakdown, and I believe you can trace that breakdown, frankly, back to those of us who are teachers in schools. Because when you ask students what teachers do when they hear words like faggot, dyke, that's so gay in the classroom, 83% of the time the teacher rarely or never does anything. And of course, when a teacher is silent, they're saying this kind of language is okay. And if you tolerate hateful language, you get hateful behavior. 2 out of 3 gay students is routinely physically, verbally, and or sexually harassed while at school. And eventually someone is going to take that to its logical extreme, as happened in Oxnard, California 2 months ago. So I think that when you ask teachers what they need, they say they need 3 things. We did a major study with the Harris Polling Organization. We said, what interventions do you need? Teachers said, first of all, they needed a clear policy. We lack that in New York. Secondly, they need training. The vast majority have had no training. In fact, we're going to be releasing in a few weeks a study done of high school principals, which is the first ever study of principals on this issue. Fewer than 2% of America's high school principals have had any training on LGBT issues, which of course is terrifying because the third thing teachers say they need is a supportive principal. So we have enormous gaps of policies and programs, and I don't think we'll see much improvement until we see that change. I feel very sad and very frustrated here in New York. We first introduced a bill that would give LGBT students the same protections as students bullied because of their race or their religion in 2000 in this state. It will die again in the state legislature this year, I can guarantee it, which means that the class of 2008, which was in 3rd grade when the bill was first introduced, will graduate from school, and our leaders will have taken no meaningful action to make school a safe place for them.